almost 40 degrees in the Czech sun, fire trucks driving through the crowd spraying water on everyone, and a band that made me feel like I'm 18 again. I survived Basinfirefest 2026, and today I'm covering the best bands, the biggest surprise performances, and the shows that disappointed me. Let's dig in. Basinfirefest is one of those festivals that I really like going back to. It's held just outside of Pilsen in the Czech Republic, and every year it mixes legendary names with underground bands that you probably never heard of before. And this year had 55 bands on the lineup, and I managed to see more than 30 of them. And normally that alone would be exhausting, but this year Mother Nature decided to make it a little bit more exhausting. Temperatures were pushing 40 degrees every single day. So this time, this festival was not just about surviving 3 days of metal, it was about surviving the heat. And somewhere in all of that, I found this one band that made me remember why I fell in love with heavy metal in the first place. But before we get to that, let's get into the best performances of this year's Basinfirefest. The first band that I saw at the entire festival was Blood Red Throne from Norway, and they couldn't have asked for a tougher slot. Middle of the day, and the sun was absolutely roasting everyone. But Blood Red Throne walked on stage, gave zero fucks about the conditions, and just delivered one crushing riff after another. This is death metal with a proper groove to it, the kind of music that forces you to bang your head whether you like it or not. And in the second song, I turned to my friend and I told him this is one of the performances of the entire festival. I've seen Death to All a few times over the years. It's always been good, but this time everything just clicked. The sound was absolutely massive, the setlist was great, and more importantly, it never felt like people were simply recreating old songs. It actually felt alive, and you could genuinely feel the respect that everyone on that stage has for Chuck's music. And that made this performance somehow much bigger than just another tribute show. Paradise Lost is one of those bands that I've probably seen more times than I remember. And this band can be a little bit unpredictable. Some nights they're just okay, and some nights they're incredible. Luckily, at this year's Basinfirefest, we got the incredible version. By the time Paradise Lost got on stage, the sun was calming down a little bit, and Paradise Lost created exactly the atmosphere that you want. Heavy, dark, and melancholic. Let's talk about Venom Incorporated. I had seen this band before in a small club, and I wasn't sure if 3 guys could bring that intensity to a festival stage. But it turns out I had nothing to worry about. If anything, they sounded even bigger. No fancy production, no giant backing tracks, no tricks. Just 3 guys making an incredible amount of noise. Everything felt raw, everything felt dangerous, exactly how heavy music should sound. And I noticed during the performance that they're not even using in-ear assistance. And I reached out to Tony Dolan, their frontman, after the show and asked him, is that real? And he said, yes, we're old school, just plug and play. Absolute legends. Now this band, Bullet from Sweden, I didn't even know they existed. And I had no plans of seeing them. But there was shade in the photo pit, so I went in there. And I'm really glad I did. Their music style is some sort of a mix between Accept and AC/DC. Big riffs, big choruses, no unnecessary nonsense, just great songs played well. And that's the thing, guys, sometimes music doesn't have to be very complicated, and this was one of the most fun performances of the entire festival. But let's get into the surprise performances and hidden gems. These are bands that I either didn't expect a lot from, or I didn't even know them before the festival. High Parasite is one of those bands. I had seen them a year before at Brutal Assault, and I just thought that they were kind of so-so. But this time it felt very different. The band was tighter, they were more comfortable on the stage, and you can see that they've been playing together for a longer time. And that really comes through in the performance. And you can kind of say the same about the next band, Tailgunner. I had seen them open up for Udo Dirksnæder 2 years ago. Back then, they were promising, but they felt insecure. Kind of like a band finding their identity. At Basinfire, that had changed. They looked and sound more like a proper heavy metal band. More power, more confidence, and a better stage presence. It was one of those performances where you can actually see a band stepping up in real time. And I think this band has a bright future ahead of them. Now, Gágor is something completely different. They're from Slovakia and they bring this underground energy in its purest form. It's a mix of death metal, thrash metal and hardcore punk, all smashed together. It's fast, it's noisy and it's aggressive, almost chaotic. People sometimes have described this band as hard violence, and honestly, I think that's not far off. It doesn't try to be clean or polished, it just hits you in the face and keeps going. I really want to see this band again, but I would prefer to see them in a little sweaty club where the walls are moving. Panther is exactly what you expect, but still a lot more. It's more than a concert, it's a full performance, it's comedy, crowd interaction, ridiculous jokes, and underneath all of that, actually genuinely skilled musicians. So it's basically a mix between a heavy metal concert and a stand-up comedy show. You don't just watch Panther, you experience it. Napalm Death is one of those bands that I respect very highly. They have shaped multiple genres, but their live performances have never really connected to me. But this time was different. Even with a stand-in bass player, or dare I say, because of the stand-in bass player, they delivered. It was a wall of grindcore energy. Fast, chaotic, relentless. Just pure intensity from start to finish. And it reminded me again why this band is so important in extreme metal. And now we get to the moment where I felt young again. Razor instead of tongue, or riot as it said on their small poster, these are young Ukrainian teenagers living in Prague. And they only started this band about 2 years ago. And when they walked on stage, it felt like stepping back in time. Like 1985 just dropped into a modern festival. No in-ear stuff, no safety net, no polish, just raw energy and pure power. I stopped thinking about the heat. I stopped thinking about how tired I was. I was just standing there completely locked in, feeling like I was discovering thrash metal all over again. One thing that I've always liked about Basinfirefest Festival is the diversity. You get everything there. There is death metal, thrash metal, heavy metal, hardcore, underground stuff, all mixed into the same festival. And most of the time, that's what makes it exciting. But sometimes it gets a little bit too diverse for my personal taste. And that's where we get into the other side of the festival. The shows that didn't really do it for me. The Browning is one of those modern metalcore bands that I struggle with a little bit. And I think it comes down to this. Everything sounds the same. The drum sound, the breakdown structures, and the same overall vibe that I've heard from a lot of bands in the same space. I know people enjoy this and that's perfectly fine. But for me, especially standing in 40 degrees, waiting for breakdown number 47 to kick in, I'd rather go to the shade. Not my cup of tea. Drowning Pool was one of those bands that I actually went in with high expectations. I was pretty sure that I would enjoy this. And the first song hit pretty hard. It was a little bit of a Rob Zombie meets grunge energy. But after that, it just somehow started to blend together. Same tempo, same structure, same energy level from start to finish. And it didn't really evolve, it just felt like one really long song. And then there is this pirate band, Banished Privateers. I actually have a lot of respect for the commitment here. Full pirate costumes, full character, in absolute insane heat. It must have been brutal for them on that stage. So respect for that. But musically, it just does nothing for me. And again, it's not about quality, it's just not what I want to see in a metal festival. So overall, this was a great weekend, and outside of that, I actually managed to do 3 interviews at the festival. I spoke with Gene Hoagland from Death to All, the guys from Století, and that were totally off the rails, and then Gregor McIntosh from Paradise Lost. Those interviews will be coming very soon to my channel, so stay tuned for that. Were you at Basinfirefest 2026? Then tell me in the comments below who was the best, who was the worst, and who surprised you. And then up here is a video that YouTube really wants you to see.